If there was ever a Venn diagram of community impact, small business innovation, and design thinking leadership, today's guest would be sitting right at the center, probably drawing a better version of the diagram herself. She has walked the path from founding ventures to designing national SME programs, from fire engineering to mentoring PhDs, and somehow still finds time to champion underrepresented founders and shape the next wave of entrepreneurial education. Welcome to another episode of School to Startup, brought to you by Tracxn, a private market intelligence platform that's been supporting the global startup ecosystem for over 12 years. Through our university partnerships, we work with institutions driving innovation and entrepreneurship, and this series highlights the academic leaders making that happen. I'm Harish, your host today, and joining us is Dr. Bahar, a reader in entrepreneurship and innovation management at Kingston University, and also a strategic partnership director with Selby Trust. Bahar, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Great. So let's go back to the beginning, right? So what pulled you into this whole world of entrepreneurship and innovation?
Thank you for the question. It's been a really personal journey. I worked for companies and then at one point decided maybe we can start a company together with a friend. And for a few years, everything was great. We grew the company from conception. I founded another companies during that time. But over time, I noticed my interest in the companies kind of fading in a way. And there was a point in my career around 2013, 14, where I noticed I'm really disengaged from my businesses. I wasn't going to the meetings. I was trying to keep a minimum contact with other co-founders or colleagues or employees. I was trying everything not to be in the business. And that was a really interesting question for me because there came a point where I was prepared to sell my businesses under the market value. And that's a very important financial decision if you think about it, that how would you let go of the business that you passionately created? What would you get less money for it? So I started digging what is the reason for that? And that's led me to notice, well, actually, there is a gap in the research in this area about emotions entrepreneurs experience, about their psychological journey. It's not always about solving problems or it's not always about making money, but it's also about entrepreneur. And I just decided, oh, well, there isn't enough research. Maybe I can do a PhD about it. And that was exactly what my PhD was. About the same time, I sold my businesses and then I moved completely to academia.
Great. So you have seen startups from both inside and outside. What trends are you noticing in the ecosystem right now, especially ones for students should be paying attention to?
Startup ecosystem is really diverse. I understand the hype of AI is making everyone think, oh, I should start a business related or with AI. I just invite you to think about when the Excel came about. At the beginning, everybody thought, oh, it's a great program. But at the same time, everybody is going to lose their job. How is it going to change our lives? But over time, we just learn to kind of embed Excel or any other kind of automating program in our lives. I would say AI is the same. So putting that aside, we see a range of businesses and ideas within the business ecosystem. We see trends related to retail because the whole ecosystem of high streets and kind of shop fronts is changing. So new ideas are coming. We see business ideas and new startups related to everyday consumer products, healthy eating, healthy living, technology, biotechnology. You can think of all range of businesses. And the one thing that I would say is certain is aging population. So everything else, if you think about it in the economy, can change. Yes, we think about the financial trends and we kind of calculate the risk and we predict the future. And it might or might not come true. But the one thing that is for certain is that the population on Earth is aging. And that's a fact. So what would you do in order to help that population? And I would say keep that as a kind of your shining light and walk towards that. Is it about healthy living? Is it about providing services to older people? How would this group behave? What do they like? I think that's a really interesting trend.
Great. Bahar, this is gold. And for our viewers, if you're finding this even half as insightful as I am, take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. All right, back to it. You have you seen any student-led projects or ideas recently that really stood out?
Yeah, absolutely. So Kingston University is really good in encouraging a student to start up, and within that, we see really interesting ideas. Some of them take it up to the market, some of them don't, and I'll come back to this subject later. We have had ideas about, let's say, energy drinks. We also have had ideas about future of education. The businesses that have started at Kingston University and have thrived are really, really diverse. One of the companies that stands out for me is migration education startup. And when I heard about it, the first time I heard about it, I was thinking, oh, what's a migration education? I didn't know about it. But it's anyone who is moving to a different country in order to kind of take up on the education. And so how can you help this demographic to settle, to integrate, to deal with the cost of living, to kind of culturally integrate in the society, to continue their career potentially in the society. So that was one of our very, very successful startups that received great support, received funding from Kingston University and the rest of it. And I would like to mention another startup students worked really closely with, and their idea was about sport wearables that help you still perform your kind of athletic activities even if you're injured. So if you think about it, an athlete who's going to his or her training every day, all of a sudden they have an injury. And what happens is that they have to interrupt that training or that kind of routine, which then their body goes back kind of to the base level, or they have to start going back a few steps and then continue and then get back to where they were before the injury. The garments that the students created would help athletes recover faster, but also perform some light athletic activities during the time that they were waiting for the injury to heal. And that was amazing. They received funding, they received support, they received recognition, and I was very, very proud to work with them.
Very interesting. So how much of these do you think comes from the way we teach entrepreneurship today?
I think a great deal can come from that. So I take Kingston University as an example. We help the students to think about trying ideas, not necessarily commercially succeeding in the first instance. I want you to think about value. I invite you to think about value in terms of psychological value and financial values. Most companies measure financial values because it's easier to measure. However, our customers also get psychological benefits from using a product. It makes their life easier. It gives them hope. It changes their trajectory in life. Think about your mobile app. We used to go to the bank front and wait in the queue, and someone would attend to us, and we told them what we need. Now we do it on our fingerprint. So that's ease of access. We are trying to tackle environmental changes with products we create. For instance, in the UK, water companies send you the kind of shower equipment that actually make you use less water. So that product brings hope to our lives. It makes us think, oh, maybe there's a better future for the next generation. Or think about any other psychological values. So when we work with the students, we constantly remind them that don't be afraid of not having a commercial success in the first steps, because that learning is a game. But also go and talk to your customers, go and talk to your users. What is it that they want, not what is it that you want? And talk to them early, talk to them frequently, talk to them often, because they are the ones to tell you, well, actually, you know what? I like this product. I like this aspect of the product.
Very true. And also these consumers and not only consumers, all other people see the success from the outside, but not the stress underneath. In those lines, you've actually done a lot of work on founder burnout and disengagement. What really happens behind the scenes when someone hits that wall, and what helps them come back?
Thank you for that question. It's a question very close to my heart. And I want to go back to the beginning of our conversation. What happened when I came to academia? And I noticed that I wasn't engaged with my business emotionally, psychologically, if you like. My heart wasn't there. I had checked out. And the same thing happens with small business owners. Sometimes at some point in running their business, they realize their heart isn't there. And so in answer to your question, there are a variety of reasons. Entrepreneurs use resources to run their business. Yes, this can be financial resources, but it can also be human resources, and it can be their own personal resources. So when you use your resources to an extent where there is nothing left, you think, so what am I doing here? I don't have anything to give. So that's one reason entrepreneurs might be stressed, they might be burnt out, they might be they might not just have the resources to continue. That is one reason. The other reason is sometimes we lose the vision for the business. We start the business for a reason. Melissa Cardon has done some work on the idea of passion, and she suggests there are three different types of passion for founding, passion for developing, and passion for inventing. When we start the business, one of these three reasons make us to kind of want to run the business, to say, right, you know what, I have this great idea, I'm an inventor, or actually I really like to start a new initiative. Over time, because our resources are limited, we kind of change our roles. So instead of an inventor, we become someone who answers the phones, answers the email, deals with employee complaints, deal with the investors. So we are not doing what we used to do. We are not doing what we used to do and we love doing. And that changing in our role kind of, if you like, makes us not have the same vision as the time we started the business. So that is another reason. And that we kind of lose the vision. And if you're working in a team, it can still be relevant because the team vision might be different from the kind of founder's vision. But then again, if it's different, it might kind of lead to disengagement. The other reason we found, which was really, really interesting, was self-doubt. And again, I think it comes back to the idea of resources. Do I have enough resources to run the business? That losing that confidence about ourselves, thinking that, oh, maybe I'm not the right person. Maybe the market is so competitive. Maybe I don't have what it takes. That's another reason. And last but not least, what we found, which was really, really interesting, was the support from our network. And by network, I mean friends and people, other entrepreneurs we talk to. We found that is one of the really important contributors to kind of making entrepreneurs continue or vice versa, disengage from their business. It doesn't matter whether your friends or other entrepreneurs that you talk to give you a solution. It's just that talking, that social element, that's the feeling of I'm not alone in this. Sometimes we get confirmation for our ideas. Sometimes it's just a social interaction. Sometimes it's kind of challenging our views. Sometimes it's offering complementary views. And all of this, it helps. So if I can just draw the picture, imagine this kind of ideas, resources we have, vision we have for the business, self-doubt or self-efficacy, and support from our social network. These seems to be a really important contributing factor to whether entrepreneurs continue to remain emotionally engaged and physically engaged with the business, or on the other hand, start checking out and thinking, maybe I should leave the business.
Amazing. So talking about the programs, you have led some pretty massive programs, the 4 million SME growth program, Innovation Playground, and also you have worked with over 700 entrepreneurs. What's something that surprised you after working with that many people?
Oh, that's a really good question. The social element, absolutely the social element. When we started creating the growth program for small businesses, our initial idea was they need help to grow the business. So UK is dealing with this productivity puzzle. It's falling behind a large economies such as Germany, China, America, in terms of productivity. And productivity is measured in certain way. And UK government is putting a lot of support in place to help entrepreneurs kind of have a higher productivity, if you like. The first kind of solution that comes to mind is let's help them to grow their business by giving them equipment that's needed for growth, telling them what the innovation is, helping them with digitalization, helping them to understand financial aspects of the business, a strategy, etc., etc., and then give them a mentor to kind of work it all together. At the same time, giving them kind of some financial support, and that's a remedy that's kind of obvious. When we started these programs and we kind of followed this remedy, small business owners and entrepreneurs we work with, this large number, at the end of these programs and supports and interaction, they all came back and said, oh, this was a great program. It's helped me to take my business to the next stage. And we certainly had the small businesses that kind of started with 50,000 pound turnover, and over 2 years they turned into about 1.5 million, 2 million, 5 million. So we saw the growth. But when we asked them, what did you get out of the program? They said the social support and the social network. And they didn't come for it. So I wonder if it was a surprise for them too, But this is a pattern we have started seeing in what we do, that element of togetherness, and talking to other entrepreneurs for various reasons. And that's definitely the biggest surprise and the biggest lesson in what I've done.
Very interesting. So, when it comes to teaching, right? So you teach across a bunch of topics like UX, marketing, international business. But I think entrepreneurship is a different kind of energy. So, what shifts when you teach it as a mindset and not just as a subject?
There are different views in this area. There are people who believe entrepreneurial mindset is something you're born with, and others who think entrepreneurial mindset is something you can learn. And I think I stand somewhere in between, really. Some of us are more risk averse than others, and you can see that in different domains of life, if you like, right? People who change country, they're certainly taking more risk than people who stay in their city kind of for their whole life. And none is the best. Each person chooses the path they prefer, if you like. And so I would say if someone has that element of, if a student has that kind of attributes of risk taking and thinking that, right, okay, I may be able to do, I may be able to execute this idea, we certainly encourage that. But there's a really interesting piece of research I came across a few years ago that says people who start their business after the age of 50, so there's this idea that anyone who starts a business, 99.9% of people who start a business, they fail in the first 3 years. Everybody kind of talks about it. But there's a really interesting piece of research that shows actually something like 85% of people who start a business after the age of 50 succeed, which then makes us think, oh, does it have anything to do with kind of believing in ourselves, having the self-efficacy, but also the experience. So sometimes we avoid risk, but it's calculated. And maybe in kind of later stages in our lives, we kind of realize, right, okay, I'm not dealing with the risk of not knowing this industry, not knowing this line of business, and maybe it's time for me to start a business. So that's one thing. The other thing is we help, me and my colleagues who teach entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship mindset, if you like, we are trying to tell entrepreneurs that funding, money isn't everything. There is this idea of frugal entrepreneurship where you can do more with less. You can share resources across different industries and businesses. And we are trying to tell entrepreneurs, right, okay, you're not sure if you can execute this idea or not. Who else can help you? Or you're not sure if you have enough money to start a business because you definitely want to have a lab, or you definitely want to have this equipment, but you don't have the funding and you can't get the funding. Who else owns this equipment and you can share it with? So we are trying to help that the mindset isn't everything. The resources are important too. Your ability to think about whether you can execute an idea is important too.
Right, very interesting. I have a follow-up question on that. Do you think entrepreneurship education should actually be a little uncomfortable?
That's a really interesting question. I haven't thought about it. I don't know. The answer is, I think it depends, because let me think of a very firm father. So if the father constantly tells the child, oh, you have to do better, you have to be good at such and such and such, you have to definitely achieve such and such. How would that make the child feel? On the other hand, if the father says, oh, you're absolutely good, you have what it takes, let's try again, what effect does it have? And maybe the answer is the balance. So maybe in some stances, we can push students and small business owners to step outside their comfort zone, but at the same time, be very cautious or considerate in terms of where is that boundary? How far do we push them so we don't end up discouraging them?
Very interesting. If we zoom out, how do you see universities' role changing in the startup and innovation space? Are we talking professors turning into investors or something completely different?
Some universities already do that. So there is this divide between business-related subject and engineering and social-related subject. So if you look at the universities and kind of engineering faculties and so science faculties, the inventions come from universities. It's a team of academics and students together coming up with an idea and then getting help to commercialize that. In the business faculties, we don't see that very often. Students seem to go out and they start a business, and I certainly haven't heard of any faculty member who become a co-founder in a business with their students. So there is this divide. But I think your question is interesting in us thinking that maybe we can kind of benchmark the same model that is in kind of engineering or science faculties, that we become the co-founders. If you are encouraging the students to start a business idea and we think it's a good business idea, why don't we become part of it? Why don't we become investors? So I definitely think there's potential in what you ask and what you're suggesting. I think it's a brilliant idea.
Amazing. So, a couple of quick ones before we wrap. Book or a resource you always recommend to students?
What kind of resource? Can you repeat that?
Any book you would like to recommend for
Right.
the student founders?
Very, very good book called Humble Inquiry. And it's about working as a consultant. But the core idea of Humble Inquiry is go to learn with an open mind. Be open to ideas. Don't assume you have the answer, because often answer kind of is outside your kind of knowledge domain. Humble Inquiry is one of my favorite books. If I can suggest another book, I would actually say Ideas for Creative Minds. So this is a series of publication by Stanford University, and it brings ideas into life about kind of how to interact with each other, how to brainstorm, how to come up with new ideas together, how to work in a team at the same time acknowledging diversity and inclusion.
Perfect. So one piece of advice you would like to give to the students who are viewing that they probably won't hear on a TED stage?
Aim for progress, don't aim for perfection. And learning is a gain. So don't worry about commercial loss. Oh, that's two pieces of advice.
Yes. All right. And finally, where can people follow your work or find out more about your latest projects, research, or anything about your programs?
Thank you. Kingston University website and LinkedIn. Whatever I do is always reflected on those websites.
Great. Bahar, we have covered a lot in 30 minutes, but there are more things to cover. Probably we can have another session, second round of interview. We can plan. But from the tough moments founders face to how real innovation shows up in the communities, not just in boardrooms. Huge thanks to you for being part of this episode of Tracxn's School to Startup. Thank you very much, Bahar.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Great. And people who are watching this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and click that bell icon so you never miss a conversation like this. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.